guys, this is just one guy, and this is my tutorial series, Unity for Noobs. Now in this episode, we're going to make a simple 4-person co-op game, and I've decided to change things up for a good reason. I usually do one-offs where I do the project and then I put the script links up online so you can download the script. But I figure a better way to teach a person how to make a video game is to actually make a video game. And you can see me actually write the programs out, write the scripts out and explain everything in detail. Now I've already done a little bit of work on this first episode because it's basically going over some things I went over in my other video, and I feel it would be kind of redundant. But this is just to show you the process of what to go over, and in future tutorials I'll be writing the scripts out themselves on camera and everything. I haven't done this before because I write scripts really slow because I think about them and think about what's the best way how to do something, so it'll be kind of long and boring to watch me actually write it out and think about it and then change things over and over and over again. So I really avoided doing that. And plus people, some of my subscribers, they ask me how I do certain things, and it's stuff that's pretty common to Unity, but some of the newer people to Unity, they don't get it, and I guess they need to see a person do it online to know exactly how it works. And I'm just trying to address some of that stuff and really do things in a better way. Now, since this is going to be a project from start to finish, it's going to go over a couple of videos. Now, since it's going to work like that, I can't just put the script link online. I'll put this some of the links to the scripts online, the ones I feel are important. But at the end of this project, I'll just put the project link online where you can download the project directly. But until then, I'll probably just put the scripts link in the description, and every time I update the script, I'll do it that way. And then at the end, I'll put the project script, the project itself online, and you can just download the project. Now, the first thing we're going to go over is concept and development. Now, this might seem pretty unimportant. It's actually right here, but it's actually very important. And when I was building my personal game, Dragon Forge, I actually had to tear the game apart 3 different times and rebuild it just because I didn't follow this. And what the concept of development does is it lets you know exactly what's going to be in the game from the beginning. That way you could start programming for one thing, and when you finish that one, you could immediately move on to the next thing, and you know how the project should go, because the project should always be outlined. If you come up with an idea and then you just try to make the video game based on that idea without really writing anything down, you're going to run into trouble. Like if you were making a first-person shooter and then you just sat down and you start programming for it, you never really think about how fast the characters should move. Should they be able to jump? How high should they be able to jump? Should the NPCs be able to jump too? It's really things that don't come up when you're really thinking about the idea, but when you start programming, these little things become vital and start to bog you down, and you don't really know how to deal with them. So it's always good to come up with concept of development. That way you know exactly what you want to put in the game from the beginning. Sorry, I had to get some water there. Okay, now since I have a good idea of what I want to put in the game from the beginning, I've actually created a list here. The first is PvE, and what this is going to do is, well, first let me explain the game. We're going to have 4 players connect online. It's going to be an online only game in the beginning. I might add an offline mode later, but at the beginning this is going to be a purely online game. And it's going to be 4 players, and they're going to attack zombies and or skeletons or some type of enemies in what's the name, horde type mode. The enemies are going to come endlessly. It's going to go through wave. And then I'm going to add PvP where the players can actually play against each other in sort of a deathmatch style. But I'll go over it right here. The first one is 4-player PvE. The next one is 4-player PvP. The second thing I want it to be is third-person control. I want you to be able to see the character and then be able to roll guns and swords and stuff like that. The next is match types. I know right now I want horde mode and deathmatch mode, so I'll put that in the game. And then we have the NPCs. I want a common type, just the enemy that the player can defeat easily. Excuse me, sorry. Then I want a boss type. Boss type enemies are important to break up the player's monotony, so you're not fighting the same enemy over and over again. And the boss type will have a different type of mechanic. They'll have like a special attack or something he does that really puts the player in danger. Then we're going to have long range enemies that basically fire at the player, which they have to dodge and really think about. And we're going to have melee type enemies, which come up to the player and attack them with swords and stuff like that. And next I want weapons in the game. Guns, handguns, shotguns, missile launchers, and assault rifles. It's important to note that all these guns work differently. That's why I've laid them out like this. Next, swords, bows, bombs, and shields. All these things will work differently too. And then I want special moves. Now my game is going to have, as I put down here, magic points and health bars. So the magic points are going to be used for doing special moves. And then I want items in the game, one of which is a health pack, and the other one which will be weapons. This will probably go on later on, but right now, just to get a good idea of what I want in the game, I'm writing a list out, so this is what I put because I had it for now. Next, I want to make a leveling system. I should put an ing on that. There we go. And this leveling system will just hold the player's stats, and the player will get stronger and do more damage as time goes on as they gain levels in a basic RPG type system. And then finally, the save system. Now this gives me an outline of everything I need to program from the beginning. That way I know exactly what I want to do. And I know I'm probably beating this over the head, but a concept in development, just to write it down and out like this is very important, because most people wouldn't think to do this, and you really think yourself when you get to the middle of the game and you're trying to figure out what should I do next. Okay, let's get to the part that I've already programmed. Now, as I said before, in the next couple of tutorials, you're going to see me actually write out the script and everything like that. But this, I didn't do it this way right now because I went over a lot of this stuff in my older videos, and I really don't want to just go over it again and again. Where it's pretty simple stuff, and you can go back and watch those videos. Okay, just see what I had here. Okay, next thing I wanted to talk about was C# versus JavaScript. Now, I've been always meaning to make a video about this. Excuse me. But the reason I prefer to use C#, JavaScript, is because JavaScript is much easier to use. C# is complicated and it has a bunch of stuff that they want you to write exactly out. And C#, I just really don't like to use C# because it's very annoying. It's ridiculously annoying. But a lot of people use C#. So I'm going to try to put this project in JavaScript and C#. And as you can see here, I have two files for it. One, I have the JavaScript project and the C# file. Now I'll put all the scripts up online as the project goes on, and then I'll give the whole project link at the end, and it'll have both the C# project and the JavaScript project. Now I'm writing in the C# and JavaScript, but my my C# is kind of weak, so I can't promise that I'll finish it in C#, but I will give it my best try. But the project will be finished in JavaScript, and if you read that completely, you should be able to translate it to C#. Now I'll do my best, but I can't promise anything, and I don't really want to promise anything. But for now, I'm writing it in C# and JavaScript. Okay, let's see what else I want to go over. Okay, let's talk about the game manager, which is the first thing I created. Now, in some of my older videos, I went over this matchmaking manager. And what it basically is a network manager that can connect from a non-local system, one non-local computer to the other non-local computer. And Unity, for some reason, has set it up where you can only do that through matchmaking, the matchmaking system now. It won't work with the regular networking system. For some reason, the regular networking system, it only works to connect locally. It won't work from computer to computer. It only works locally on the network. And the matchmaking system works non-locally, so you can connect from computer to computer. Now, I already went over this in older videos, but I'll go over it again here. It's basically just a network manager that connects to the matchmaking system. And for that, I've made a special matchmaking script, which I'll go over in a minute. Here it is. All it has is it's a public class matchmaker, which extends the network manager, and we're importing the Unity engine.networking, and we're importing the networking matchmaking system. And all this does is gives us access to the networking manager, which we're getting right here, and we're saying this networking manager script extends network manager. And what that is saying is it's basically making this script a network manager, and that's why you see all these variables right here, because it essentially is a network manager now. And right here we just go through a whole bunch of code, which I can't really explain this too well, because what this code was Unity has a bug. I don't know if the bug is still in the system, but before matchmaking wouldn't connect, and you couldn't connect without this piece of code right here, and that's what this is. I can't explain exactly what it does. I know kind of what it does, which it just changes this app ID right here, but I just used this piece of code just to be safe, because I don't know if the bug is still there or if the bug they fixed it, but just to be safe, that's why I used this script. That's it for that. And the next thing we have on here is the network managing hub. Now at the end of the project we'll probably change, well, we'll definitely change it to something better that looks better and runs a little bit better. But for now, just to get us started, we're using the network manager HUD, and this basically puts the HUD up on the screen. This will let us start right here. That's all that does, which gives us the ability to click on it and go through it. And that's the game manager. I just created an object, named it game manager, put that matchmaking the matchmaking manager script on there, and put the network manager HUD on there, and that's it. Let's see, the next thing I want to go over. Okay, the scene setup. Let's see what scene we're in. Okay, the prototype scene. Okay. Now the scene setup, all I've done is set up two scenes. The first is this opening scene. Sorry, just to explain first. All it needs is a main camera, a directional light, and that game manager object which I just created. And that's all that scene needs. That's your opening scene. That's the first scene the player is going to see when they come into the game. It's basically going to be the the menu scene, which is the opening screen. Now the important thing about this is you have to go here to build settings and put this opening scene in the build settings in order for this to work. And I probably should have explained this before, but I forgot about it. Hold on. You put the opening scene right here, and next we're going to create an offline scene, and we're going to put that right here in online scene, and we're going to put that right here in the online scene. I've named it prototype scene, but you should probably name it online scene or whatever fits your game. Another important thing is you also have to put that prototype scene in the build settings. Ooh, I didn't think it was going to do that. Let's just delete that. It should look like this. You should have the opening scene first, and the scene you want to load into second, which would be the online scene. Now we're not going to click build right now. And next we're going to go into the prototype scene. We're going to come back to that opening scene because there's more we have to do with the game manager. But right now, I just want to get into this scene and explain something that's important here. Now all we need right here is a floor for right now, and a directional light so we can see. And we also need this empty game object called spawn points. And what this does is it holds all our spawn points in the game. Now later on you're going to see each player spawn at 4 different points. And you might want to say, how do I control that? I've created this empty game object, and then I created 3 empty game objects. And I placed each one of these empty game objects at a different point where I want the player to spawn. As you can see, they're all in different places, and in each one of these places the player will spawn, and it's controlled by these 4 points right here. Now you just put this script on right here, network start position on each one of these empty points, and a player will spawn at this point, and they'll follow the same rotation and same position as these points. So it's important that you make sure these points are in reasonable places. And what I mean by that is, let's get closer, make sure they don't clip through the ground or anything like that, and make sure they face where you want the player to face. The blue line right here controls the forward of the player, and I believe that's the right of the player, and the green line is the up. So point this forward wherever you want the player to go. Wherever you want the player to face, and make sure it's above the ground, but not too high so the player doesn't fall in, unless that's what you want. But just make sure you don't put it through the ground, because if you did something like this or like that, the player would spawn underneath and just fall through straight to the ground as soon as they spawned. So make sure it's above ground. Okay, that's it for that scene. Save that scene. Just make sure it's in the build settings. Let's just go back to this. We'll need to save that. And we got a game manager. Make sure that second scene is in here once again. Make sure that don't destroy unload is clicked, and the running background is clicked. Next we go to our spawn info, and what we have is the player prefab. Now once again, I separated this into C#, a C# player, and a JavaScript player. Now the C# player is just using a regular third-person controller, so you don't have to do anything for this. But the JavaScript one is using the player controller with the scripts I've personally written. I've translated the third-person scripts, and that's what this is on this player. Now it's important to note that you have to use these two scripts on the JavaScript player, and I've also put this network identity on both these players, as you can see here. Now the network identity is what you use on anything that's going on online, any player or anything like that. Now right now we're just gonna click this right here, local player authority. So we'll have local authority over to control this game object, because it's our player and we want to control it. And we also have this cam script and third person script. Now it's important to note that if you do download this script and you want to use the JavaScript version, you will have to set up some of these variables right here. And what I mean is, they won't come like this. You have to make this 0.3, and just make sure all these match right here. Otherwise you'll get some weird player behavior, like the player being stuck up in the air because the ground distance check is too low. It'll start at 0.1, you have to change it to 0.3. If you're using the C# player, you would have just downloaded it from the standard assets, so it really won't matter. In fact, just to get it started, I'm going to put this project linked online, so you'll just be able to download the project link just to start off. And then as we're going, I'll just upload the scripts. That way you can just do it that way. And then at the end, I'll just put the project linked when it's all finished. So I'll put the project linked in the beginning and at the end, and in between I'll put the scripts. The reason I don't want to put a project linked up on every video is because the way I do it, it's got a certain limit on the account space. So if I did it every video, it would just waste account space, and eventually I'll be out of account space too fast. So I'll just put the project linked up at the beginning of this project and at the end of this project. The beginning to get you started, and the end when it's all finished. In between, I'll just put script links up, and you can download the script and import it into the project. Just so all of this you don't have to deal with, because I've already separated it out. We've already got all our folders set up. Everything's easily findable. If you want the JavaScript version or something, it comes right here. If you want the C# version, sorry, just change that around, which it should be. The C# version will be right here. Okay, now the C# version, well, I don't need to explain this now because everything will come, since I put the project linked up, everything will come already done. But it's important to note that with our player, we want a prefab player, and what that means is we want our player to come with the camera. Now we have to make the camera a part of the game object, but the camera has the D parent from the game object when the game starts, so the camera can move around independently from the player. Now, I've modified that and I've put a control up, I believe, in a third-person character or the third-person user script. I'll go into it in a minute, but that's what it does. Now you have to put the camera manually in the cam spot right here. Now, since you're downloading a project link, it'll already come like this. But it's important to note that this camera must be right here. The main camera that's connected to the player must be right here. And what it's going to do when it's the first start the game, it's going to deparent that camera, so the camera can move around independently. And the camera has that smooth follow script, which is going to make sure that it follows around the player and goes around them and everything like that. But it needs the deparent to do that. I hope I'm explaining that well enough. But yeah. Let's just delete this and go into my script. Okay. Third person control. This is just a JavaScript version of the third person user script. I've just changed around some subtle things, like I put input get key code space. And the reason I did this is just so I won't rely on a get button that you might not have in your game. You might have something differently and the button set up differently. So if you want to change any of the buttons, you could change it right here and put because I just put the input class, so it'll make it much simpler if you're downloading this and you're not looking and saying it's giving you an error because it's saying get button jump and you haven't set up the jump buttons in your game. Now at the end of the project, we are going to change this around. That way we have a better system if the player wants to change around the buttons or something like that. But for right now, I just put it as that just so it'll be simplified. And I've done that with all the buttons. Okay. Okay, here it is. Here's the custom function I wrote myself, which deparents the game object in the middle of the game. Now the way I've set this up is it takes one parameter, which is true or false, and the true or false lets this function camera and UI parent control. It might be curious why I named it like that. It's some stuff we're going to go over in later in the game that's going to include the UI too. But for right now, you just have to worry about the camera. And all this does is deparents and parents the camera to the player depending on this variable right here, which is going to be true or false. And as you can see in the start function, I just say I just set the variable to true and it calls the function. So that's what deparents it. And here's the actual function itself down here. Is it? Right here. See, it just says camera UI parent control, and then it has this variable parent true, which is, I just named it that, which just tells you if it's true or false, and it's a boolean. And it just says if the parent true is false, then parent the if the parent true is false, parent the object to the player. Deparent the object to the player, and if it's true, which is the else statement, then parent the object to the player. And if it's not true, deparent the camera to the player. Sorry. Okay. And I believe that's it. This is just a simple JavaScript version of the of the third person character script. And that's basically it. Now, I'm just gonna I went over a lot of stuff, but I skipped over a lot of stuff because I'm basically just gonna put the project link up here, and I already went over this a lot of this stuff before. But in my next video, I'm just gonna go over it more deeply, where you actually see me get to type out all these long scripts. I'm gonna speed that up because it's gonna be a very slow process, because I like to think things out when I'm typing them out. And even though I'll do some pre-work before the game, I'll basically put all that up online so you can see me go through it, and you can see me type each line and explain what each line of code does. think that's it. Set the spawn points for no. Sorry, I actually forgot to show what the game actually does at this point in time. Right now, we're just setting the game up so it could spawn our players online and the players can see each other. And here's an example of that right here. We have this first game, which we're going to create the match. Right here. And we're going to create the match. Might take a while because my firewall might be up, so I might have to go through that. Yep. And there we go. Yeah, sometimes you have to go through that to connect to the game. Next, we're gonna enable matchmaker on here. Click find internet match. That's gonna take a minute, so we're gonna do it for the rest of the games. Find internet match. And we're gonna find the internet match. And as you can see, it found it. Join match Unity for Noobs. We're gonna click join. We're gonna click join. And we're gonna click join. This is why you click run in background. If I had clicked run in background and it had that set up, then it would have just done this automatically. It would have updated that, but it didn't because the run in background is clicked. But as you can see, we all spawned. We can all see each other on the network. It works from computer to computer. And if I turn, you can see the other three players. Now right now, we don't have the controls separated, so we're controlling all the players, which we're going to do the next video. We're going to separate the controls. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to suggest a tutorial, please suggest a tutorial in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.